Good morning. It's good to see everybody. All right, so we took a little detour last weekend from the 10 virgins. We did Father's Day, so now we're going to get back on track with the 10 virgins. So I'm just going to read out of Matthew 25 just to get started on, just to read it again so we can get it back fresh on our minds, all right? Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom was delayed, all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming, come out to meet him." Then all those virgins who arose trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "No, lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Afterward the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered to them and said, "Surely I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour which the Son of Man is coming." So we said before, this is actually, you read over this, but there's some really serious implications to this story, right? I mean, this is talking about eternal things. And eternal is a word we have a hard idea wrapping our minds around. That's forever, meaning you'll either be in heaven or you're going to be in hell, and that is forever. And hard to think about what that is. Over and over, day after day, you'll be in one or the other. So when we're going over this, there's a seriousness to what Jesus is saying in here, right? And I know that we can read our Bibles, and sometimes we just don't pause enough to kind of read through there and go, man, that's some really serious stuff he's talking about. But this is very serious. So when we're trying to break this down, and so we've done 2 sermons on it, and we did a whole bunch on the wise and the foolish, right? And foolishness in the Bible, as we've spelled out, is horrible to be. It's not just silliness. It's actually evil. It's being not on God's side. That's foolishness in a biblical term. Where the fools don't prepare for what's going to happen in their lives. They don't prepare for the future. They don't prepare for their walk. When they didn't show up with the oil, it shows that we talked about last time, like the example I gave was somebody goes to the beach and they just say, yeah, we're just going to go. And you throw all your kids in there and you get there and they're sunburned, there's no food, you don't have towels, you don't have your bathing suits. And then you look over to the guy over there and you say, man, I wonder how he's got all his tents set up. Everybody's got shade, they've got water, they've got food. Looks like the kids are having fun. They got suntan lotion and rash guards. Well, somebody prepared. That's wise to go to the beach for the day. And the one who shows up with absolutely nothing, that's foolish. See the difference? And it's the same thing in our walk, and this is what Jesus is talking about here. There's 50% we talked about, right? You got 50 that were foolish and 50 that were wise. They all came with a lamp. Some had more oil than others. Some came with reservoirs of oil. They're holdout to run the whole race. That's what God calls wise. Foolish is going along your race without the means to complete what you've been called to do, what you're supposed to do. So, in this parable, I think that this one is kind of one of those ones, like I've said, you hear all kind of different teachings on it, and it comes from here, and it comes from over there, and it's just all kinds of stuff. But there's other parables that actually say the exact same thing that are easier to understand sometimes than this one, but you can put it in context to what this one is saying, because Jesus says it more than once in different ways, which when Jesus says something more than once, you need to pay attention. He's really trying to drive that home to you to understand where he's coming from. So in Matthew 25:1, I'm going to read, that's the same one. They don't have this translation, but I want to read that story I just read out of this. It's the Weiss translation. I want you to hear how it breaks down the words of foolish and wise and what we said. and what we've gone over. So let me just read it. It's not going to be on the screen. The kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins, as such a nature as to have taken their torches and to have gone forth to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them, listen how this says, where it says over here they were foolish, this says, now 5 of them were without forethought or wisdom. Well, we say no forethought means what? No preparation. You didn't do what needed to be done before you came. And it doesn't just say they're foolish, it says they have no wisdom. That's interesting, isn't it? And 5, instead of wise, it uses the word prudent. It's a good word. They're prepared. They are knowingly doing something and being prudent. It makes you are prepared for what you're going to encounter. And you've thought about it. That's wisdom. For those without forethought and wisdom, having taken their torches, did not take with themselves oil. Now this says they didn't take any oil. They had lamps, but they didn't have oil in them. It's a little bit different on the translation. But those who were prudent took oil in their receptacles with their torches. And while the bridegroom was delaying his coming, they all dropped off to sleep and were slumbering. And at midnight there has come an outcry, behold, the bridegroom, be going forth to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and started to put their own torches in order. And all those without forethought, that would be the foolish, and wisdom, said to those who were prudent, give us at once some of your oil, because our torches are going out. And those who were prudent answered, saying, no, lest perchance there should not be any means enough for us and you. Rather be going to those who sell and buy for yourselves. And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were prepared went in to meet him to the wedding, and the door was closed. And later there came also the rest of the virgins, saying, Sir, sir, open to us, open at once to us. And answering, he said, assuredly I say to you, I do not know you. Be ever on watch, therefore, because you do not know the day nor the hour. You see how that reads a little bit different. It actually uses the words of what foolish is. And that's, I think sometimes when you can read a different translation, it does a little bit different. It's not amplified, but it says those without forethought and no wisdom. So y'all get the picture here of the wise and the foolish. No forethought, no preparation. Okay. So, let's go to Matthew 24:45. So this one gives us a similar example of what we're going to talk about in the 10 virgins, and I think that we go through this, we're going to make some comparisons that will help you see what Jesus is saying. This is actually the parable right above what Jesus gives before he goes to the 10 virgins, okay? So 45 says, who then is faithful and a wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household to give them food in due season? Okay, so let's just stop there, and we're talking about, he's going to compare the servants, right? He's going to have wise servants, and he's going to have the servants that weren't wise in the second part of this parable. But I want you to see this word, because when you have the 5 that were foolish and the 5 that were wise, when we take these two in comparison, because it's telling you the same thing that'll happen. Both of them tell the same story. But it throws in here and says, who then is a faithful servant? Do you know what it means to not be faithful? It means to be adulterous. So who then is a faithful servant? So what's faithful? When you think of faithful, you think of marriage, yes? Are you faithful to your husband or your wife? And if you go outside of that and you're not faithful, you've committed adultery. What does faithful mean? It means committed. If you're married, you know you're committed to your husband and your wife, and there is supposed to be no other. No fooling around, no going over the fence. You stay in your pasture. Right? And sometimes when we go through life and we decide not to be committed and we're not faithful, We let a torrential rain come through and knock a fence down, and we go over into some other pasture. It happens all the time. So what Jesus is saying here, who then is faithful? Who's committed? Who doesn't want to go out and date the world when you already have me? Yes? And it says, who then is faithful? And not only faithful, but when you're faithful to the Lord, what does it say? And wise. There's wisdom in that. And also says, just look at just that first little part before the comma. Who then is faithful and wise? And then it also throws in servant. Faithful, wise servant. A committed servant to serve the Lord, one who doesn't want to go do other things besides what the Lord has told him. One who's wise and is prepared, and also one that's submissive to the Lord. That's a servant. Submission, if you're going to be a servant, you have to be submissive to whatever you're under. There's a lot in that little sentence right there, not even a full sentence. So who then is faithful, a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household, to give food in due season? So what does a servant do? He serves his master. He makes his master look good, or he's going to make him look bad. Anybody ever had anybody work for you and you thought, I don't know. I know, and having businesses that I've had to fire people because they're my face wherever that business is, and if they're not doing a good job, that doesn't represent me, and I don't want them around. Whether it's a good job they're not doing, whether something they say, the way they talk. If that's my representative at a business, you can just hit the road if you don't want to do it like I want it done, because it's my business. This is the same thing here. Do you see that? So in that first line, Jesus is saying that this is my business. And I want a faithful, wise servant to serve me because you're my face. So it also doesn't just go along that it's just you that needs to be that way. You're an example to other people too. And it says in charge to feed people. So if Jesus is saying this, then what are you feeding people? What he wants you to feed them? Is your example that you're setting because you're a faithful, wise servant his example that he would set, or is it something else? Because we're an example to each other in the way we act, the way we live, what we say, how we say it. See, a servant to the master represents what, if he's given charge over something, then the representation from him, whoever the master is supposed to be, I'm supposed to be as a servant doing the will of what he says, which represents him. And if somebody comes and says, well, no, don't do it that way, I say, no, I have to do it that way. That's what my master said. See? You got to look at this like this, because that's what Jesus is saying. I'm entrusting you with something, and it has to be done my way for lots of different reasons. Somebody says, well, yeah, but I also worship this and I also worship that. And you say, oh, that's okay. No, that's not okay, because that's not what God put you to believe. That's not his will. No, don't discipline your kids. You shouldn't spank them. You shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. And you say, no, I have a book that God gave me. And it tells me how to do this. I'm submissive. I'm under submission to what the master's will is for my life and my household and what I'm feeding others. Not just me, because I'm a pastor up here, but you. For your kids, your grandkids, your dad, your mothers, your brothers, sisters, uncles, nephews, nieces, whatever. It's everybody all the time that sees you and how you handle things. (46) says, blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find him doing so. Blessed is that person, blessed is that servant. Servant, serving his master, humility, submission to do the master's will. When God shows up, Jesus shows up, and he pops up out of nowhere like the Bible says, guess what? In that moment, what you're doing, who you are, is what will be the representation of what you've been doing. And are you doing it correctly? You know, when I talk about business, most of the time when I go to places that I don't tell the employees I'm showing up. I want to know what they're doing when I walk in the door. I don't want to tell them because, then everything's clean and it looks better than it normally does. I want to come in and see what you're doing regularly. And there's been a lot of people get fired because when I walk in like that, I go, you can take your stuff and go, and I'll finish the shift and somebody else can come. Caleb's in the back. He's going like this. He knows. Because there's an expectancy. Now, this is not getting paid, but I'm paying you to do what I told you. Jesus will show up no different. But we're not expecting it. What we've been doing, he will see. Either a mess or it'll be nice, neat, and clean. So it says when he comes, we'll find him so doing. So when Jesus comes back, will he find you doing what he's asked you to do? So do you see this comparison to the 10 virgins? When Jesus comes back, what's it look like when he comes back? Were the oil lamps full? Were they foolish and didn't prepare for the run? Did they think they were prepared, but they weren't? Did they think they were believers, and they were not believers? (47) says, "Assuredly I say to you, that he will make him ruler over all his goods." Now the Bible says if he can trust us with a little bit, he can trust us with a lot. So there's a testing involved in this, right? Because when you go to heaven and you go on, and God's going to have things for all of us to do, and what you've been allotted with on this earth and how good of a steward you were with it will depend on what you get to do when you're in heaven for eternity. We're just pilgrims in this land. This isn't really our home. So sometimes we have to put in perspective, that changes things. You mean I'm going to do something after this? Yes. It's no different. Go back to the business. Somebody who works hard, does good, does what you tell them, you promote them. There's a place for everybody. There's a place for everybody who is a servant. Because according to this, when you're foolish and you're not a servant and you're not wise and you're not faithful and you're not committed and you're committing adultery, there's not a place for you. See how serious this is? (48) says, "But if that evil servant says in his heart, 'My master is delaying his coming.'" So we just read out of the parable of 10 virgins that there was a delay, right? So listen to what this parable says. It says, and you can compare here, "But if that evil," and you can say foolish, not prepared, not committed, adulterous servant says in his heart, "My master is delaying in coming," and begins to beat his fellow servants, to eat and drink with the drunkards. So we'll pause right there. Do you think this is what the master's will is for them to do? And you have to ask yourself at this point, maybe they don't know the master's will. How do you not know the master's will? Because you look real pretty on the outside, but you're dirty on the inside. Jesus told the scribes and the Pharisees that you look like polished brass on the outside, but yet on the inside you got maggots. Can we be that way too? And if we are that way, that's when we really need to go to Jesus and say, I don't want to just be pretty on the outside. I don't want to put on a show. I want to be real with you. And there's a big difference. And he begins to beat his fellow servants. and eat and drink with the drunkards. The master of that servant will come one day when he is not looking for him, at an hour that he is not aware. You see those similarities in the two? You read the virgin story and you go, man, there's all kind of, but if you read this, and then you read the one that Jesus said right under it, Jesus is pretty smart, he said this one, then he talked about the virgins, you can go, man, there's some very big similarities, if not exactly the same outcomes. And I want you to see something. It says, the master of the servant will come on a day. You notice it doesn't say might, could, if, when. It says will. He will come on a day when you're not expecting it. And let's just go a little further. What we're talking about here is when Jesus returns, but anybody in here who dies before he returns, which hopefully nobody does, but if that happens, it's the same scenario we're talking about here. What your life is in that moment. It's the same thing. So, he'll come in an hour you're not aware, and will cut him into and appoint him, cut him into and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, so I'm going to read this out of the Message translation because I thought it was really good. I don't always read out of it, but sometimes it kind of paraphrases things where it's very understandable. So let's read it out of the Message. Who here qualifies for the job of overseeing the kitchen? Now look, I want you to think about that word kitchen because it says providing food, but when you have a household, what do you think about comes out of the kitchen? If you're a woman, you think, or a grandma, love comes out of the kitchen. Yes? My grandma, my mom, a lot of love comes out of the kitchen. Why? My wife, because they want to feed you. They want you to be happy, fed. They want you to have good nutrients in your body, fuel to do what you need to do. So that word kitchen means something. Who qualifies the job of overseeing the kitchen? A person the master can depend on to feed the workers on time each day. Someone the master can drop in on unannounced and always find him doing his job. A God-blessed man or woman, I tell you. It won't be long before the master will put this person in charge of the whole operation. It's pretty good, isn't it? Then it says, but if that person only looks out for himself, and the minute the master is away does what he pleases. I want you to see he does what he pleases. See, this totally is different from what the will of the Father is. When you decide to do what you want to do, you stepped out from wisdom and you've gone into foolishness. It's what he decides to do. My master is away. Oh, nobody's watching. Just like little kids. Mom and dad aren't around, they do things they shouldn't do. Oh, nobody will see me. Yeah? Master away, he does what he pleases, abusing the help and throwing drunken parties for his friends. The master is going to show up when he least expects it, and it won't be pretty. He'll end up in the dump with the hypocrites, out in the cold, shivering, teeth chattering. You remember what I said about being polished brass and maggots on the inside? This is what a hypocrite is. That's the definition of it. It's acting and being one thing, and we're going to get into this in a minute, and I'll show you that even clearer. It is portraying yourself to be something that you're not. It's saying one thing and you're doing another. So can you be an evil servant? Is the evil servant a true believer? Because by his fruit, it doesn't sound like it. If you really work for me, you would know what I told you. Because I'll make sure of it. And if you read the Bible, God's made sure that you know what His Word says. He gives it to you so you can understand. But you can know the whole Bible. You can memorize it from Genesis to Revelation. And you can just be like clanging brass if you don't know Him. It's the application of what the Word says that changes the way that your heart is. Because you'll know the Father's will, and when God shows up, you're doing it because you applied what He told you to do. See the difference? So does God really know us? Let's see. Psalms 139:1 says, "You have searched me, O Lord, and you know me." Now that's either fantastic or scary for some people. You search me, O Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit. You know when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my coming and going, my lying down. You are familiar with my ways. So when we read this, it says when his master goes away, he decides that he's going to do, and he's going to get drunk, and he's going to have parties. God already knows. And it's not going to be a surprise when God shows up and He says, I show up in a moment unknown, because He knows your situation already before He gets there. And I'm sure it breaks His heart if you're on that side. Matthew 7:16 says, "You will know them by their fruit. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit. A bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits, you will know them." You know that if we can know each other by our fruits, you know who knows even better about our fruits? The Lord. You know, when people come in and they want to go through deliverance, I tell them that. I said, "Look, God already knows what's going on in your life. Don't sit here and try to tell me things that aren't right or aren't full, because it doesn't. This is between you and the Lord, because He knows you when you sit, when you rise. He knows your ways. We can't hide that from Him. No matter how much you might want to think, no, God knows your thoughts. If you're saved and you have the Holy Spirit residing inside of you, the Holy Spirit sees everything that you see, looks at everything you look at, hears everything you hear. You can't escape that stuff. It's not possible. Matthew 7:21 says, "Not everyone says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father." So, what was the servant not doing for the Lord to show up and say, "Hey, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be cast out, cold place, teeth chattering"? Because He wasn't doing the will of the Father. See, this is where we get into people think they're saved, but they don't act like they're saved. My grandmother was saved. She prayed for me, so I'm going to heaven. That does not work. Not in any way, shape, or form. It all comes down to us. So who is the one that does not do the will of the Father? Who does the will of the Father? Who is the one that does the will of the Father? It's the bride of Christ. If you're the bride of Christ, it says you're supposed to be faithful, a servant, committed, not adulterous. You can't be an adulterous bride and get to marry Jesus as the groom. That does not work like that. Listen to this. I did the message again because it was good. Matthew 7:21, starting there, it says, "Knowing the correct password, saying 'Master, Master,' for instance, is not going to get you anywhere with me." Because you can say "Master, Master." I can have employees and I pay them, and when I get there and they say "Boss," but I'm not really their boss because you're not doing what I told you to do. Don't call me that. I told you to do this, 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 and this. This is how we do things at this store, so you do it. And you don't do it. Don't insult me by calling me boss, because you don't care what I say. Is that any different? So when you show up and say, Master, Master, it's not going to get you anywhere. What is required is serious obedience, doing what my Father wills. Wow. Serious obedience. How many lessons did we go through in obedience? Like 10 or something we did sermons on that? Serious obedience, this says. Do foolish people? Do you think that the foolish ones, out of the 5 and 5, do you think the foolish are serious about being obedient to the Lord? No, but I bet you the wise are. I can see it now at the final judgment. Listen to how this says this. Those judgment, thousands strutting up to me and saying. Listen to how that, strutting up to me and saying. You know what strutting, the word, is like a prideful arrogance when you strut. Look at me. Look what I've done, Lord. I'm coming to the gates and I know I'm going to get in. I've cast out demons. I've laid hands on the sick. Look at the works that I've done. That's the strutting that this is saying. In the final judgment, thousands strutting up to me saying, Master, we preached the message. We bashed the demons. Our super spiritual projects had everyone talking. And do you know what I'm going to say? You missed the boat. Even that word boat is a big word when you think about Noah. The ark was salvation for those people. You missed the boat. Look at the next line. This is what I was getting to earlier. And all you did was use me to make yourselves important. You don't impress me one bit. You're out of here. Okay. So that's interesting, isn't it? How it works? And it's right. It says, you used me to make yourself look important. Did you know that when you're kingdom-minded, your concern, it's not yourself, it's God. When you're a servant, you want Jesus to look good, not you. You want God to be glorified in all that you do, not you. When somebody gets healed, somebody gets delivered, when you preach a message and somebody gets their life fixed, it's not about who told you. It's supposed to be about them showing you Jesus and how good He is. So when you do these things and you strut up there and you say, Lord, look at all the things I've done, does God know you? He knows where your heart was the whole time. He knows when you sit. He said, I know you. I understand how you work. And when you come to me like that and you were interested in using my name to make yourself glorified instead of glorifying the Lord, you didn't know me, and I don't know you. So could these ones that Jesus said, I didn't know you, could they really have been servants? No. It's not possible. To be a servant, you have to be submissive. To be a servant, you have to serve. So Matthew 7:23 in the Amplified says, listen to how this says this. This is the Amplified. And then I will say to them openly, publicly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who act wickedly, disregarding my command. Do you think to act wickedly and disregarding His commands is wise, or is it foolish? So then we got the 5 and 5 described right here too. Here's 5 that acted foolishly. They didn't do the Lord's will. You got 5 that were wise and did the Lord's will, because they're supposed to be saved. They're supposed to be living for Jesus, supposed to be doing the things there. So if you don't know the Lord's will, you haven't entered into Him yet. And there is a big issue with that, with people that think they're saved and they're not saved. You've heard all about it. Oh, Jesus is coming back. Yeah, we're going. And when you get there, God goes, I know you. Sorry. I hear testimonies all the time. I hear people come in and they say, I said, are you saved? Well, I think so. Oh, we better talk about that right up front. Well, I was baptized when I was little in a Catholic church. That don't work. I was dedicated when I was a baby at the Lutheran church. You made a choice. I ask, have you made a choice for yourself that you want to receive Jesus, that you want to make Him Lord of your life? Well, I went to church camp one time, and did anything change? Oh, I don't think so. But that's the deception. And you know the devil loves that. He'd love to keep you in a stale spot your whole life to think, oh yeah, I'm going. And then he gets you and God doesn't. Sounds like a good plan if you're the devil, doesn't it? Keep you in church, keep you reading the Bible, but yet you don't live for Jesus. And when we read here in a minute about the five wise and 5 foolish, they took their lamps. They knew something. This wasn't like they were just out, practicing Hinduism or Satanism or something crazy. They took their lamps. They knew something was coming. These were people that probably went to church. Educated about the Lord somehow, but yet they fell short. So if you don't have a true relationship with God through the Father, you can't do the Father's will. And you may think your lamp is full, and you may think you got a lamp. I hope nobody in here is in the situation, so I'm not preaching this like your lamp's not full. I'm telling you to check yourselves. And what a devastating place to be, to show up with a lamp and you've been in church your whole life, or somebody told you about it and you think, oh man, Jesus is coming back, and then God says, yeah, but you never lived for me. You never believed in me. I'm not just talking about saying the sinner's prayer. I'm talking about God saying, you didn't believe in me. You didn't do my will at all. So the foolish and the wise. Foolishness makes it about you and your opinions, right? Wisdom makes it about God and God's purpose. That's the difference. When it says the master left and he did what he wanted to do and threw parties, that's foolishness. Because that was what he wanted to do, not what God wanted him to do. Matthew 25:5 says, we're going back to the 10 and the 5 and 5, the virgins. While the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And in this verse, it doesn't even separate the wise from the unwise. It just says they all slumbered and slept. Every one of them. Slumbered means, the word is pronounced nistazo. It says to fall asleep figuratively, to delay, to slumber, to nod to sleep, to overcome or oppress with sleep, to linger, to lay. It also says to be negligent. And the word slept is kathudio, which means by implication to fall down, to lie, to rest, but it also means yield to sloth or sin, to be indifferent to one's salvation. Isn't that interesting? So they all fell asleep. The bridegroom was delayed, and they all fell asleep. I think in this we can see that we're talking about, the wise and the foolish, but Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, but in the amount of oil that you stored up, in the slumber and sleep when you awake, you've still got your oil. So this isn't saying you have to walk perfectly for Jesus to show up and say, oh, you're one of the 5 wise, because everybody, all 5 virgins fell asleep. It wouldn't put that in there if that wasn't important. All 10 virgins, they all fell asleep. Romans 13:11 says, and do this, knowing the time, that now is the high time to awake out of sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. Awake out of your sleep. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off the works of darkness. Let us put on our armor of light. Let us walk properly as in the day. Now listen, we read where it said, the master left. The guy said to himself, I'll throw parties, I'll beat the slaves, we'll get drunk. In Romans it says, let us walk properly as in the day, not in revelry and drunkenness, nor in lewdness and lust, nor strife or envy. He even mentions that this is the day. Your time is getting closer. Don't do these things. So it lines exactly up. The master, if he tarries, don't go do these things. Come out of it. Do you see that? Those go hand in hand. Put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lust. That's the last line of that, 14. Do you think that servant made provision to not fulfill the lust of his flesh when he started beating servants, which would entail anger, strife, and then you get drunk, and drunkenness leads to lust, and it leads to all kinds of stuff? No, he didn't. He made no provision for it. He just went out and did it because it was him, not the Lord. All right, Matthew 26:36. Let's talk about some people sleeping. It says, Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the disciples, sit here while I go and pray over there. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. I'm just starting this on this verse, but this is where Jesus took his disciples to the garden, and he was betrayed here, right? This is the story of that. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. He went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, oh, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but you will. Then he came to the disciples and found them what? Sleeping. And said to Peter, what? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, Jesus said, lest you enter into what? So stop right there. We got foolish and we got wise. We got a story that says, and while the master tarried and he was away, they did things they shouldn't. Because they entered into what? Temptation. See, you see the common theme that's just kind of roping around here? We become complacent. We sleep. We say God's going to tarry, and we start doing things like, oh, well, that sounds like fun. I'm just going to do that, but I'll get back on track. That's very easy to do. That's what this falling asleep is talking about. Kind of going off on your own. So Jesus says, watch and pray so you don't enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went to pray. Oh, my Father, if this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink it, unless your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them, went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? 3 times they fell asleep. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. See, my betrayer is at hand. Jesus is telling them, don't sleep, because something's going to happen here. Pray with me, so that nothing bad happens. Pray with me, because I'm concerned. And you know, if Jesus is concerned, you know what you should be? Concerned. Don't go to sleep. Pray with me. What the virgins do. went to sleep. What'd the guy do that was made head of the house? He went to sleep. That's really what it means. He veered from what his assignment was that God gave him. And he went and did things he shouldn't. That's what happens when we fall asleep. He got drunk. He had parties. He beat the servants. That's what that sleeping is referred to. It's your relaxing moment for you. Jesus said, don't do that. What was Jesus doing the whole time they slept? Was praying. The church was asleep and Jesus was praying. These were disciples. The 10 virgins fell asleep. Don't feel too bad because the disciples fell asleep too. Those were his followers, the ones that knew him better than anybody, and they fell asleep. And all of us should know, if Jesus said stay awake and don't fall asleep, don't stay awake and don't fall asleep. There's something coming. And while he was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude, with the swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given them a sign, saying, whomever I kiss, he is the one, seize him. Immediately he went up to Jesus and said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. Jesus said, don't fall asleep. Something's fixing to happen. And yet they fell asleep and didn't listen to him. I'm not saying they could have prevented it, but they didn't listen to what Jesus told them. Jesus wanted them to pray. God told Noah to get on the boat, didn't he? He built it, told him to get on it. We went over that story. I guess Noah could have slumbered, could have slept, and said, I don't see any rain coming, no clouds. I guess I'll just take a break, go hang out with the people in town. But he didn't. And it saved his life. Saved his family's life. No slumber or sleeping for Noah. Back to the story of the virgins, Matthew 25:6. And at midnight a cry was heard, behold, the bridegroom is coming, go to meet him. Okay, it's time. A cry was heard, behold, the bridegroom is coming out, go to meet him. Then all the virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. So Jesus is coming back. It's the time. All those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. It doesn't say just the foolish or just the wise. They all arose. The same ones that were sleeping, heard the cry and got up, and they're all going, right? All the virgins are going. I want to look at the word trim real quick. Trim says to put in proper order, decorate, to garnish or adorn. It also says to make ready, to prepare, to embellish with honor, and to gain honor. So there's a lot more to that word than they were just like trimming on their little wick. This is they are excited. They are getting prepared for they're put in the picture. If you're a bride and there's a groom, you're putting on your wedding dress, right? You're like, man, I'm going to look good when I walk down that aisle. Yes? This is what's happening here when they're trimming their wicks. They hear it called, whoo! They're excited. They're going. So to honor. They all were going to do this, right? Let's look at that in the Amplified, John 12:26. If anyone serves me, he must continue to follow me, to cleave steadfastly to me, conform wholly to my example in living and, if need be, in dying. And wherever I am, there will my servant be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. You look at all that, it goes along with them saying the honor part of trimming the thing. There's an honor, there's an adornment. And yet God says, when you serve me good, when you do it, I will honor you. You will be honored. Would there be anything more honoring that when you hear the trumpet blast, that you get to be the bride? That's pretty honoring. But according to that, there's a few things you have to do that. And I know it sounds like I'm preaching this to y'all, but listen, that doesn't get preached enough for us to understand what it really means to walk this out and not just, I can go to the bar on Saturday night, show up at church, and no, because then you become like the servant who, when the master was away, did what you wanted to do until the time comes and you just try to pull everything together. It doesn't work like that. And there'll be a lot of people left behind because that's what's been taught. We're supposed to be holy, sanctified, set apart for God. And that means you're going to look different to the world. You may be outcasted from your friends and family. Who cares? How do you look to God? That's the key. Because when it comes down to these verses that God says He's coming back for His church and His bride, what's more important? Impressing people here on earth? Being part of the in crowd? No. That's not what's important. And if that is important to you, and you're sitting in here, you need to check that. Because that's incorrect. According to the Word of God, that's correct. It's correct to the world. It's correct to Satan. It's correct to the devil. It's correct to evil. It's correct to foolishness, but it's not correct to wisdom. Proverbs, John 12. Let's go to Proverbs 29:3. It says, a man's pride will bring him low, but he who is a humble spirit will obtain honor. You know it's going to take a humble spirit for you to be the bride of Christ. There's no two ways about that. And for the honoring part, the trimming, and for it to be worth something to trim and make something honorable, that's what that'll place you into. Okay. I'm going to try to get this done, so if we go a little bit long, y'all just bear with me. I got to get to a certain point before we do next time. Now pay attention to this. This is very important. In verse 8, 25:8 says, and the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out. Now this verse right here has been, you read this and you hear commentaries on it, and it's all over the place about your oil and it's going out and all this other stuff. I want to put some perspective in this about, and next week we're going to talk about the oil and what it is and how you get it. But here, I want you to see some of the things about this. Proverbs 19:3 says, a person's own folly leads to their ruin, yet their hearts rage against the Lord. Folly, we're talking about the 5 foolish virgins. It says a person's own. This is ownership. This is your actions. This is the way that you do it. Nobody else. This is solely you. Talking about the actions that we do. You can choose wise and you can choose folly. And it says a person's own folly leads to their ruin. That's not God's folly. It's not your brother's folly. It's not your dad's folly. This is your folly. That's what leads people to ruin. And their hearts rage against the Lord. Why? Because they don't get their way. That's foolishness. You should seek God's way and His outcome. That's wisdom. There's a difference, right? So when this says, the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out. How many times do you know people that always think that they're owed something, because even for the choices they made in their life that are horrible? No, you're not owed anything. You made these choices. You can make it right. You can go to Jesus. You can get forgiveness. You can forgive other people. But you have to own what you did. Let me borrow some of what you got. No, that is not the way it's going to work here. I didn't prepare. I was foolish. That may work out sometimes for your kids, for your wife, for your family to say, yeah, let me help you out. But there's a point that's going to come when you've been foolish way too long, and it's going to get to the point when you say, I need some of that, and it's not going to be given. I didn't work hard enough and I don't have money. I've been out gallivanting. Let you borrow some money. No, not with this situation. That's your own foolishness. And God will make you own up to your own foolishness. Let me go a little further. Let me say something else on that, your own. How many of you know people that have excuses for every single thing? I need to get this done. Well, I've been busy. I haven't had time. But there's always something, not just like, I just didn't get a chance to do it. I'm sorry. It's not just what you just want to hear that. I just couldn't do it. Okay, good. At least you owned up to what the issue is. When you get here, you can say, well, Lord, my friends, my parents, my brother, I didn't have a chance. I was overdoing this. That's foolishness. Because when God draws the line, it says, the time has come, the trumpet blows, there is no more. There's no excuses that you're going to tell the Lord and negotiate your way into the doors of heaven and be a bride if you're not prepared to be the bride. If you're defiled and you're adulterous, God says, you had plenty of time. And at the same time, you need no time. The thief on the cross was a believer right then he got in. So what have we been doing? You see? It can be no time. People on their deathbed, I need to receive Jesus. Fantastic. And their heart changes, and you know it does. But if you're not on your deathbed and we're sitting in here, how much more opportunity do we have to serve the Lord and bring more people to Christ? That's the point. God's just not saying, I never knew you. Yeah, I not only knew you, you didn't do anything for me here because you don't know my will. And that's why you're here. To be disciples. And the word, when it says, give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out. The word out actually means to be quenched, to suppress, to stifle. It's not just like they're running out of oil. It is their lamps are not burning good. There's a problem with the light coming out of these lamps. It's not very bright. And mine's getting dimmer. But yours sure seems bright. See? So Matthew 25:9 says, but the wise answered, saying, now listen, they're asking for the oil, right? They're asking for oil. My lamp is going out. My light's getting dimmer. I don't know what to do. The trumpet just blew. Let me have some of yours. That's what they're asking the 5 wise virgins. The 5 foolish are asking the 5 wise. My lamp is getting dim. The trumpet just blew. What am I going to do? I need help. Matthew 25:9 says, but the wise answered, saying, no. What? No? Wow, that's interesting. No? Somebody in need and we're not going to help them? No. Lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves. So you show up unprepared and you expect for me to supply for you. Would anybody say that's foolish? So let me show you something here. So is it that they don't want to give oil to the other people, or is it they can't give their oil to the other people? Do they not want to share? Or is it the fact that they can't share? Okay, let's read some Bible verses here. Hebrews 13:16 says, and do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices God is pleased. Whoa, that's interesting. We're instructed to share. John 3:17 says, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Man, but these 5 virgins just told these guys no. And they're talking about eternal life, the bride of Christ. He's here. And they're not sharing. Proverbs 3:27 says, do not hold good from those to whom it is due when it is in the power of your hand to do so. The 5 wise virgins, the ones that are going to be the bride of Christ, they're going to get into the gates of heaven, have told the foolish ones no. These wise ones are correct, or they wouldn't be going in. Do they know God? Yes, I'm sure they've shared. They've been doing the will of God and been servants the whole time. Or they wouldn't be in the spot they're in to be the wise virgins. And yet they tell somebody no when they ask him for something they really need. What they're asking for can't be given. They're asking for something that can't be given. I can stand up here and preach to you about salvation until I'm blue in the face that you need to be saved. And did you know if you don't receive it, then that horse didn't drink at the trough that you led it to? I can't be in the 5 wise virgins and have the other 5 over here and they say, I need your salvation. It's my salvation. Jesus never turned anybody away that asked him, I believe in you, Lord, and they live for him. He never turned anybody away. He never will. There'll never be anybody in hell that says, oh, I was believing in Jesus, but he told me I couldn't go to heaven. No. That never will happen. So I can't share my oil in the sense of my life that I've lived. I can't give you the miles that I've tracked. It's not possible. So it's not wrong, according to these verses, for them to say no, because they can't give this. What they're asking for here when the trumpet blows is something that cannot be given from one. How many people would like to be able to do that? When you stand wherever we're going to stand and we're going up and we see people who aren't going up and it's your mother, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your friend, and you wish with all your heart, gosh, I just want to give that to them, but you can't. That's what they're asking for. Because they didn't come prepared. The miles they've tracked, the way they live their life as unbelievers, I can't give that to them. I can teach it to them. I can help them before the trumpet blows, but I can't stand there and give them what they're asking for. Because according to the Word, if any other time if it's available for me to give, I'm supposed to give. If somebody's in need and they're hungry, can I give that? Amen, I can. You're low on gas. I can help you if you need to get home. You need to be prayed for. I can help you. But if it's correct in saying those verses I read are right and God says that He likes people that give, it's odd that they're saying no when it's the most important time that if you were ever going to give something and you were able to, this would be the time. Because we're talking about souls. We're talking about eternity. You would want to. You would want to do that. In 1 Corinthians 15:51 it says, Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Do you know that word at the moment means, the word is atamo. It means in an atom of time. And my point of reading that scripture is that there's not time when the trumpet blows. It has to be now. Because if we're standing here and we hear a trumpet right now, if you say, I need to go get some more oil in my lamp, I don't know if I'm getting in, it is already too late. When you have the recognition that maybe you didn't live your life right, when you hear trumpets and all of a sudden there's half the congregation gone, it's too late. Do you see the importance of your miles that you go with the Lord? Whether it's the thief on the cross, 1 second he was there, he believed. Do you believe that guy would have walked with the Lord after that and hung on the cross with Jesus and said, I do believe? I think he would have gone out and told everybody about it. That's how we're supposed to be. He didn't have a chance to. So, the next time we're going to talk about where to get the oil, who you get the oil from, and go through that. And it's going to be very interesting, I think. So, if what we're saying here makes you think, oh, I don't know, that's okay. Because at least you're hearing it. At least you're hearing it. And you can process it. And you can, and I'm going to tell you this too. If we're talking about salvation and we're saying, okay, if you're saved or not saved, the 50 that weren't saved, the 50 that were, they thought they were saved but they weren't, or you're just hear this and you're talking about your life in general and the way that you're serving the Lord now to go, wow, I am saved, but some of the things I'm doing sound foolish, that's okay to hear it like that too. You can hear it both ways. You can hear, man, my track record is not that good. I really believe in the Lord, but maybe I need to step it up. You can hear that as well. There's so much wisdom in parables that Jesus tells. You can look at it and go, man, I need to step up the pace here. And you can look at it and go, well, I don't know if I'm really saved because I'm not really doing the Lord's will anywhere in my life. Well, look at it like that too. That would be called wisdom. If you look at it and go, oh, I'm just fine, I'm not going to worry about that, that would be foolish. So as far as we've come in this, it's a good examination for all of us to look at and go, when I get there, and we get the Bema Seat judgment, the first judgment that we go to, where it looks at the works that we've done for the Lord. Not works based on, did you work enough to get salvation? That's not what I'm talking about. What you've done here for God to place you wherever it is that you're going to have something afterwards. Maybe it's this perspective for us to go, man, living now, as we're pilgrims in this land, we go, maybe I want to do some more for the Lord. Maybe I want to carry that bag of groceries for the old lady that's walking out of HEB that needs some help and just be kind to people. And you may say, that's not that big of a deal. But when you do it and God takes his pen and goes, that was fantastic, it's a big deal. Or pay for somebody's groceries who's in front of you, then look at how much money. Little things that'll start changing your heart. All right. I beat on y'all enough today. Sorry, Doug. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day and all that are here. Lord, I pray you put in our spirit, check our perspective on things we do. Let us be doing it for the kingdom and not for ourselves. Let us be doing your will. And for those here that are questioning that, Lord, just speak to them and help them, guide them, give them wisdom. I thank you for your word and the truth in it. And I thank you for wanting the best for us and giving these examples for us to be able to live by and go by, to make sure that we're lined up the way we should be lined up with you. That we be servants, humble, committed, faithful to you in all that we do. And that we exemplify you and we're your face wherever we go. And let us be true to that. So I thank you for it and believe you for it. And I just pray for everybody here has a good day, good lunch. In Jesus' name, amen.